Hi, everyone. One thing we know about slavery was that it truly did divide our nation during the turn of the 19th century going into the middle of the 1800s, up until the Civil War of 1860s. We had the Underground Railroad. We had states disagreeing about whether there should be or should not be slavery. It was before the Congress. The Congress couldn't decide. They had to make compromises just to keep the Union together. It was a mess. And to add to this intense debate was one man who proposed an idea that, if we think about it today, makes absolutely no sense. The man's name, John C. Calhoun. He was Vice President of the United States from 1825 to 1832. He had the audacity to propose the following concept. As he put it, slavery, a positive good. Let me read what he said. I do not belong to the school which holds that aggression is to be met by concession. Mine is the opposite creed, which teaches that encroachments must be met at the beginning, and that those who act on the opposite principle are prepared to become slaves. In this case, in particular, I hold concession or compromise to be fatal. If we concede an inch, concession will follow concession. Compromise would follow compromise, until our ranks would be so broken that effectual resistance would be impossible. We must meet the enemy on the frontier with a fixed determination of maintaining our position at every hazard. The most unquestionable right may be rendered doubtful, if once admitted to be a subject of controversy, and that would be the case in the present instance. He's talking about how those who might compromise on the slavery issue, if they give an inch, they'll continue to give in and give in and get in. And then he says this, which is almost shocking. He says, the subject is beyond the jurisdiction of Congress. They have no right to touch it in any shape or form, or to make it the subject of deliberation or discussion. In other words, these compromises, everyone from the 1820 compromise, where they allowed Missouri in as a slave state and Maine as a free state, to the compromise of 1850, where California was brought in a free state, and the idea eventually was creeping in for popular sovereignty. That idea in particular, coming with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, that concept of the people of each state choosing whether they wanted a free state or not, which then later led to pro-slavery forces and anti-slavery forces going at each other, killing each other, creating what was called Bloody Kansas. It was an incredible scene. But here, John C. Calhoun is saying the following. A large portion of the northern states believe slavery to be a sin, and would consider it as an obligation of conscience to abolish it if they should feel themselves in any degree responsible for its continuance, and that this doctrine would necessarily lead to the belief of such responsibility. I then predicted that it would commence, as it has, with this fanatical portion of society, and that they would begin their operations on the ignorant, the weak, the young, and the thoughtless, and gradually extend upwards till they would become strong enough to political control. In other words, he's talking about the anti-slavery forces, the people who were against the slavery, who wanted to end slavery, the abolitionists, the people who were involved with the Underground Railroad, the people who were involved with the free soil movement. That is, the people who said, you go into a new territory, let it be a free territory. He was truly opposed to anyone who wanted to oppose slavery. Now watch what he says here. He says, however, some of the great body of this non-slave holding states are at present, in the course of a few years, they will be succeeded by those who will have been taught to hate the people and institutions of nearly one half of the Union. Now, here is something that's going to just absolutely blow your mind. He says, But let me not be understood as admitting, even by implication, that the existing relations between the two races in the slaveholding state is an evil. Far otherwise. I hold it to be a good, and will continue to prove so, if not disturbed by the fell spirit of abolition. I appeal to facts. Never before has the black race of Central Africa, from but the dawn of history to the present day, attained a condition so civilized and so improved, not only physically, but morally and intellectually. Compare his slave condition with the tenants of the poorhouses in the more civilized portions of Europe. Look at the sick and the old and infirm slave on one hand, in the midst of his family and friends, under the kind of superintending of his master and mistress, and compare it with the forlorn and wretched condition of the pauper in the poorhouse. What's he saying? He's saying the people, the slaves in America who were brought from Africa, those slaves are better off here in their slavery than they were in their freedom in Africa. Yeah, folks, that's what he was trying to promote. The idea that the slaves were better off here as slaves than in Africa. Now, slavery in any form is wrong. Whether you're treated nice or not, slavery is wrong. Calhoun had it wrong. But this man held the vice presidency of the United States for 7 years, 8 years. And he was an influential leader. And he was one of the actual leaders of the South that led in states' rights, which means the states should decide, and the era of nullification, where states decided to not follow federal laws like the Tariff Acts. Yes, friends, this was John C. Calhoun. An amazing figure in American history. Controversial, definitely an idea that was off the charts, but one who influenced the debate that affected the whole slavery controversy, the whole slavery issue, just before the Civil War. I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.